standard costing and we are done with material variance, right? So today we are going to start with the another variance, that is labor variance. Clear? So let us start with the labor variance now. Okay. Now that is the second variance we are going to study now, that is labor variance, right? So in this we are going to calculate 6 variances. Now labor is basically the workers who are working and producing the commodity, right? So now why we study it? Because every labor they have to work at least, they say, 40 hours a week, for example. 8 hours per day for 5 days, it is 40 hours. Now when actually we work as an employee or labor, we do not actually work 40 hours, right? So what happened then, there's an hours utilized. Maybe 38 hours we work in a day, in a week, or 37 hours we work in a week. So there is some idle time is also there. So we have to calculate the deviation, right, for labor variance. Now what we saw here in this flow diagram, we have a labor cost variance. Now this labor cost variance, it has 2 categories. One is a labor rate variance and another is a labor efficiency variance, right? Labor efficiency variance is basically talks about how efficient the labor is. Clear? Then the labor efficiency variance, it has 3 variances. One is what you call is a labor mix variance. Now this mix variance is a gang variance. Gang in the sense like when labor is working, right? So whenever you see any construction happening, you see that male workers are there, female workers are there, even some children are also working, right? Okay, so we call it a mix. How many people, how many male, how many female, how many children are working to complete that particular project? Is it okay? So that is what we call labor mix variance or a gang variance. Then there is an idle time variance. So idle time variance, it actually talks about 40 hours they used to work in a week and actually they work for 38 hours. There is a 2 hours idle time, right? So they have not produced anything over there. So then we have to calculate labor idle time variance. And the last one is a labor yield variance. Yield means there is a standard production and there is an actual production. So if the this is the to produce standard, to produce this commodity, if the company has to produce this commodity which is a standard one, this is the standard cost. So if the company this is the actual production, then what is the cost? Is it okay? So here we are talking about yield. So there is a difference between the standard production and the actual production. When there is a deviation between the actual production and standard production, then we calculate yield variance. Is it okay? Right? So let us move further in this. Okay. This is how we have to move in labor variance. That is, we have to calculate 5 L's. Like we have seen in material variance, we have to calculate 4 M's. Here we have to calculate 5 L's. Now L1 stands for actual payment made to workers for actual hours worked. So everything is actual here. Actual payment made to workers for actual hours worked. So if you have to calculate it, what is the formula? Actual composition of labor means actual composition of gang multiplied by hours worked multiplied by actual hourly wage rate. Everything is actual here. Actual gang multiplied by hours worked multiplied by actual rate. This is the actual payment which is made to the workers at actual rate. Is it okay? That is L1. So everything is actual here. There is no standard in L1. Now when we talk about L2, L2 is payment involved if the workers they had been paid at standard rate. So here it is exactly same as material if you think, if you see, right? So here what is actual composition, actual gang multiplied by hours worked multiplied by standard rate here. So, in L1 and L2 the difference is only of the actual rate and the standard rate. Is it okay? Right. Now, let us move to L3. L3 stands for payment involved if workers had been paid according to the proportion of standard gang and payment had been made at standard rate. Is it okay? Right? So, in the same manner we will calculate what is the formula? Standard composition of gang multiplied by hours worked multiplied by standard hourly wage rate. Here we will talk about standard rate is given to us. Now, L4 is standard cost of labor hours utilized. Now, here from this L4 we will be able to calculate idle time variance, because here we are talking about hours utilized, not hours worked. How many hours? Actually they have to work for 40 hours, but how many hours they have utilized in that week? So, from this L4 we will be able to calculate idle time variance. So, the formula for this is standard composition of gang multiplied by hours utilized, not hours worked, hours utilized multiplied by standard hourly wage rate. Clear? And the last one is L5. Because of this L5 we will be able to calculate standard labor yield variance. Yeah. Absolutely. Hours worked in the sense that actually they have to work for these number of hours in a week. How many they have utilized?
Including the idle time.
Yes. Right? So, standard labor cost of output achieved is standard labor cost of standard output, right? Standard labor cost for standard output divided by standard output multiplied by actual output. Now, this is the formula, right? You will come across when you will be able to learn it when we will be actually doing a problem on this. But how we calculate it? LRV stands for labor rate variance. Labor rate variance is equal to L1 minus L2. Then labor mix variance, that is L2 minus L3. Then we have LIT variance, that is labor idle time variance, that is L3 minus L4. Then labor yield variance, L4 minus L5. Then you have labor cost variance, L1 minus L5, and then last you have labor efficiency variance, that is L2 minus L5. Remember, this order should not change. This order should not change. In case, for example, hours worked and hours utilized are same, okay, will you be able to calculate idle time variance? If hours worked is 40 hours and hours utilized is also 40 hours, so is there any idle time? No. Then in that case you will not be able to calculate idle time variance. Is it clear? So, it all depends what is the question and how you have to calculate it. In case in some of the questions you will not be able to calculate L4 for example, because there is no hours utilized. Is it okay? Clear? Understood? Okay. So, if you want you can take a pic of it. Yeah, please. Gang here means, like, for this is all gang, right? Now, here gang means how many males and how many females are there. Is it okay? Similarly, when we talk about a gang is basically a composition, a mix. So, for example, if this is a building which is to be made, normally when you go outside and you see male workers are also working, female workers are also working, some children are also working, right? So, let us say to make this auditorium, we need 10 male workers, 5 female workers and 3 children. So, the total gang is 10 plus 5 plus 3 is 18 people we need, right? Out of this 10 are male, 5 are female and 3 are children. That is a gang. This is the standard we want, but actually what happened? We got 8 males, we got 7 females and 3 children. That is an actual gang. So, that is the difference between standard gang and actual gang. Clear? Standard something which you want, actual something which is actually there, which happened. For example, you have wrote an exam, so you expect 70% and you scored 60%. So, that is an actual, that is a deviation. So, variance is basically a deviation. आपके एक्चुअल आउटकम में और आपके प्रोबेबल आउटकम में जो डिफरेंस होता है उसी को हम वेरिएंस कहते हैं, डेविएशन कहते हैं. तो वेरिएंस और डेविएशन इज अनदर नेम फॉर इट, सर. You were not there, I believe, in the last class, right? So you missed the theoretical part of standard costing, sir. Now this is, I believe all of you have taken the first, this pic of this slide, right? So we are moving down to a problem now. So this is the problem, read it and start doing it. थोड़ा इसको अच्छा, let me just squeeze it, right? Okay. Is this okay? Is this okay? Do you want me to squeeze more? Okay. Read the problem and please start doing it. You will definitely have one problem on standard costing, be it material, be it labor, right? Normally we get problem on these two only, but in case if you get anything, we will be doing variable overhead as well as fixed overhead variance also, most likely today. I have given you what is L1, what is L2, what is L3, what is L4, what is L5. Now what is so question says that you are given some standard composition is given. Now standard composition is that 10 men, 5 women and 5 boys, they are working for something, maybe on a project, and how much they are paid? They are paid man is paid 0.625 rupee per hour, women is paid 0.40 per hour and boys are paid 0.35 per hour. That is the standard composition and the standard rate. Okay. Now according to given specification, a week it consists of 40 hours and the standard output for that week is 1000 units. So standard output is how much? 1000 units. Is it okay? Right? Now in a particular week, gang consisted of 13 men, 4 women and 3 boys, and actual wages paid are this. So this is your actual composition. This is your actual composition. That is, men they are paid 0.60 per hour, women are paid 0.425 per hour, boys are paid 0.325 per hour, and 2 hours were lost during the week due to abnormal idle time. So how many are the hours utilized? 38 hours are the hours utilized, right? Now actual production was how much? 960 units. Okay, is it okay? Now you have to calculate labor variance. You have to calculate labor variance. So this is the problem. You can click a photograph of the same and do it. Always remember, whenever the composition of the gang will change, whenever the composition of the gang will change, the efficiency of the workers will also change. Understood? अगर gang ही same रहेगा तो efficiency भी same रहेगी. Maybe today we both are a team, right? हमारा खुद का एक efficiency है. But maybe tomorrow we both were a team, हमारा efficiency same रहेगा कि बदलेगा? बदल जाएगा. तो जैसे जैसे कॉम्पोजिशन बदलेगा आपका टीम के अंदर, आपकी जो एफिशिएंसी होती है वो भी बदल जाती है, इट चेंजेस. इज इट ओके? दैट इज द रीजन वी हैव टू फाइंड लेबर एफिशिएंसी वेरिएंस. Labor efficiency variance arises because there is a change in the composition of the gang.
Sir, we take composition as a matrix. We take composition as a matrix.
No, it's not required to be matrix, right? Straight. What is L1? Tell me what is L1. L1 is actual payment of workers, actual payment made to workers for actual hours worked. So what you have to do? You have to write 15 men, 13 men, 10 men, 5 women, 5 boys multiplied by 40 hours for each and then multiplied by standard rate. Let me just add a slide and I'll do it for you. Have you taken the pic of the same? So I should do it here itself. Okay. Now, let us see. Okay. L1. L1 is actual payment. You have to write this. Otherwise, there is no meaning of L1 if you don't write this. How does the invigilator know what is L1? So, actual payment made to workers, right, for actual hours worked. For actual hours worked, right? So, men, women and boys. So, actual men and women are 13, 4 and 3. 13, 4, 3 multiplied by hours worked. Hours worked. No, no, it has to be 40. Hours utilized is different. Hours worked means actually in a week how many hours they have to work? 40 hours they have to work. So we presume that they have worked for 40 hours, right? So into 40 into 40 into 40. Now multiplied by, this is the composition, this is the composition hours by, and this is the actual rate. This is the actual rate multiplied by 0.6, 0.425 and 0.325. If you calculate it, how much it comes to? 312, 96, how much? 68, all right. Okay, okay. This is 68, 68 and 39. So the total comes to how much? 9, 1, 8 and 3, 11. This is 419. This is your L1. This is your L1. This is your L1. Right? Now let us calculate L2. Yeah, नीचे वाला 45, this is 325, right? This is 325, not 375. This is 325. If you have taken 3.375, just calculate it again. 120 multiplied by 0.325. Right. Now let us calculate L2. What is L2? L2 is a payment involved if workers had been paid at standard rate. Standard rate, right? So this is the composition. What is the composition? Here we will take what? 13 men, please come. 13 men, 4 women and 3 boys multiplied by hours worked multiplied by standard rate. So hours worked is 40, 40, 40 multiplied by standard rate is how much? 0.625, 0.40 and 0.350. So how much it comes to? This is 325, 64 and 42. So the total comes to 431. This is 431. So we have calculated L1 and L2. So we have calculated L1 and L2. Is it okay? Right? ये full fledged question आएगा. Remember in the exam. It would be I do not know, maybe 15 marks problem. It could be. Now what happened? I am giving you the concept. But in the exam, what you may get a composite problem. एक प्रॉब्लम जहाँ पे आपको मटेरियल वेरिएंस भी निकालना है और आपको लेबर वेरिएंस भी निकालना है. यू गेट ए कंपोजिट प्रॉब्लम जहाँ पे आपको मटेरियल वेरिएंस भी निकालना है और लेबर वेरिएंस भी निकालना है. बट रिमेंबर द फॉर्मेट विल रिमेन सेम. इज इट ओके? Now let's move down to the, let us calculate now let us calculate L3. What is L3? Payment involved if workers had been used according to standard proportion had been used according to standard proportion of standard gang and payment had been made at standard rate. This you have to remember, please, what L1, L2, L3, L4, L5 stands for. Now here let us understand composition. So वो कौन सा composition लेंगे हम यहाँ पे? Standard composition, right? Multiplied by hours worked multiplied by standard rate. Is it okay? So we have 10 men, 5 women and 5 boys multiplied by 40 multiplied by standard rate is 0.625, 0.40 and 0.350. You calculate it, how much it comes to? 250, 80 and 70. So this is 400. Is it okay? सो ये जो है एक्चुअल देखें तो एक तरीके से स्टैंडर्ड लेबर कॉस्ट है. क्या है ये? एवरीथिंग इज स्टैंडर्ड. यहाँ पे स्टैंडर्ड गैंग भी है, स्टैंडर्ड रेट भी है और आवर्स वर्क है. भाई पूरे हफ्ते उनको कितना काम करना था, 40 आवर्स दे हैव टू वर्क. क्लियर? नाउ लेट्स मूव डाउन टू L4 नाउ. इज इट क्लियर? Now let's calculate L4. What is L4? Standard labor cost. Standard labor cost of labor hours what? Utilized. Here what are we talking about? Hours utilized, not hours worked. So what it will be? Standard composition multiplied by hours utilized multiplied by standard rate. So what is the standard composition? That is 10 men, 5 women and 5 boys multiplied by, now hours utilized, 2 hours were lost due to idle time. So how many hours were utilized by the workers? 38 hours. So this will be 38, 38, 38 multiplied by standard rate, that is 0.625, 0.400, 0.350. Calculate it, how much it comes to. 237.5. How much? 70. 76. Okay. 66.5. So the total comes to 380. Okay, fine. So this is your L4. This is your L4. Now we are moving down to the last one, that is L5. Let us calculate L5. Now what is L5? L5 is standard labor cost of output achieved, Now what is the formula for this? Formula is standard labor cost of standard labor cost of standard output divided by standard output multiplied by actual output. Now what is the standard labor cost of output? Standard labor cost of standard output? If you see, this is the one. Standard labor cost of standard output. What is the cost? 400. Right? So 400 divided by how much was the standard output? 1000. What is the actual output? 960. How much it comes to? How much it comes to? You can calculate it. 4 6 24, 384. So your L5 is 384. Your L5 is 384. Is it okay? Clear? This is your L5. It just requires practice. You will be able to learn all these L's, L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, right? Now let us calculate, after this let us calculate the variances. The variances. Now this is what is the variance. Labor rate variance, L1 minus L2. I'm showing it again. Labor rate variance is L1 minus L2. Labor mix variance is L2 minus L3. A labor idle time variance is L3 minus L4. Then you have labor yield variance, which is L4 minus L5. Labor cost variance L1 minus L2, and labor efficiency variance L2 minus L5. So this is the format which you have to, this is the, you can say, order which you have to remember. Clear? So let us do it now. So labor rate variance, that is L1 minus L2. Then we have labor mix variance, which is equal to L2 minus L3. Labor idle time variance, which is equal to L3 minus L4. Then we have labor yield variance, which is equal to L2 minus L4 minus L5. Labor cost variance is equal to L1 minus L5, and labor efficiency variance is equal to L2 minus L5. How much was the L1? 419 minus 431. 431 minus 400. 400 minus 380, and 380 minus 384, then 419 minus 384, and 431 minus 384. Let us just find out the values first, rather than, do not put any minus sign, just find out the values. So for example, if it is negative, then what is whether it is favorable, unfavorable? It is favorable. If it is positive, unfavorable, right? So it is 12 favorable. This is 31 adverse. This is 20 adverse. This is 4 favorable. This is 35 adverse, and this is 47, right? 47 adverse. So remember, if the after you the value, if it comes positive, it is an adverse ratio. If it comes negative, it is a favorable ratio. Right? Now, after you calculate it, let us put it into that. What you call flow diagram, just to see, and it is a cross verification that whatever you have calculated here, whether you have calculated it correct or not. It is the verification of that. Clear? Can we move further? All right. So let us see in this. This is the flow diagram. Let us go from labor cost variance. How much was the labor cost variance? 25 adverse. 35 adverse. Okay. Just give me a minute. So we got 35 adverse. How much is the idle time variance? 20 adverse. Adverse. Okay. All right. And yield variance? 4 favorable. So let us find it out. This is 55 minus 4. How come? कुछ गलत है. LM labor mix variance is how much? 31. Okay. So this is 31. Okay. So this is 31 and 20 is 51. 51 minus 4 is 47 adverse. So your efficiency variance, it has to be 47 adverse. You just check it out. It has to be 47 adverse. Correct? Right. Now what is your labor rate variance? Labor rate variance 12 favorable. Now 47 is negative, 12 is positive, so it has to be 35 adverse. Is your labor cost variance 35 adverse? Right. So whatever variances you have calculated, they are all correct. Now this is a cross verification of this flow diagram. You need to remember this. Labor cost variance, it has two parts, labor rate variance and labor efficiency variance. Labor efficiency variance, it has three parts, that is labor mix variance, labor idle time variance and labor yield variance. Is it okay? Is it clear? Understood? Right. Now we are moving down to the next problem on labor variance. I will give you 15 minutes to solve that problem. Now you have already done first one problem on labor variance. Now we are moving down to the next one, and I would like all of you to do it on your own now. I will not help you in this. This is the problem. अच्छा थोड़ा सा मैं इधर कर देता हूँ. Okay, fine. This is okay? All right. If you're not able to click photograph of this problem from here, you can click it from there. It is very clear on that side. It is very clear on that side, on that screen. Giving you 15 minutes to solve the problem. Brush up all your concepts for your midterm, please. It has MCQs. So it is a mix of theory plus practical both. Right? So we have done a lot of theory in all the three topics which we have done: marginal, budgetary and standard costing. So you will have theoretical MCQs on this also. Always keep writing because you are practicing. So what L1 stands for, what L2 stands for, what L3, L4 and 5 stands for. Always write that, so you will be able to remember it. Please pass on the attendance sheet. People who are keeping it, attendance sheet pass कर दीजिएगा. In many books you will not find this method. In many books you will find lot of formulas are there to calculate it, and it is very difficult to remember those formulas, right? It is one of the most easiest method which I was taught by my professor when I was doing BCom honors from DU. So I'm still following the same method. I'm not referring any formula from the book, right? So he taught us so well that still till today I remember it. So this is the second problem, 15 minutes to solve it. So there's a gang of workers, normally consists of 30 men, 15 women and 10 boys, and the standard rate at which they are paid is 0.80, 0.6 and zero point 0.4. So the normal working hours per week is 40, and the gang is expected to produce 2000 units of output. So during the week ended 31st March 1993, the gang, it consisted of 40 men, 10 women and 5 boys. So this is the actual gang, actual composition of gang, and the actual wages they were paid at is 0.7, 0.65 and 0.3, right? So during that week, 4 hours were lost due to idle time. So the hours utilized is how much? 36. Okay, and 1600 units were produced. So you have to calculate labor variance. You have to calculate labor variance. Do it, please. Always remember L3 is the standard labor cost, because there in that L3 what are we using? The standard composition multiplied by hours worked multiplied by standard rate. It's not about that. Put that into flow diagram and see that, verify this, whether whatever values you have got, it is correct or not. Put it in the flow diagram and show it when it comes to you in the exam. After you calculate it, make the flow diagram and make it and show it. Labor cost variance, it has two parts, labor mix variance and labor efficiency variance. Labor efficiency variance, it has three parts, labor mix variance, right, labor idle time variance and labor yield variance. In the exam, just do not calculate it, put it in the flow diagram just to cross check whatever value you have got, they are correct or not. So that will just cross verify it by putting those value in the flow diagram. Done? Do you want me to do it? Done? Great. Anyone who has not done it till now? Just calculate the variances please and verify them. Should I do it? Okay. Let me just calculate it for you guys. Okay. Now let us see L1. I'm straight writing the values now. L1. We are calculating L1. That is actual composition multiplied by hours worked multiplied by actual rate, right? And the composition, actual composition is what? 40, how many male, female? 40, 10 and 5. 40 men, uh, 10 women and 5 boys multiplied by how many hours? 40 hours multiplied by actual rate. And the actual rate is how much? 0.70, 0.65 and 0.30. If you calculate it, 1120, how much? 260, 156. So the total comes to 15. हाँ बताओ बताओ. 200 ये तो गलत ही है, वैसे भी गलत है. 156 होगा नहीं, कैलकुलेशन से ही पता लग रहा है. थर्ड का 60 आएगा, राइट. थर्ड का 60 है. So it is how much? 1440. That is your L1. Now let us calculate L2. 5 boys हैं. कोई बात नहीं. You understood the concept, right? Whether it is 6 or 5 doesn't make any difference. You calculate. You have done it with by taking 6 boys. It is okay. It is okay. No issues. Now let us talk about the L2, that is actual composition multiplied by hours worked multiplied by standard rate. That is 40 men, 10 women, 5 boys multiplied by 40, 40, 40, and the standard rate is how much? 0.80, 0.60 and 0.40, right? It is equal to how much? How much? 1, 2, okay, 240 and 80. This is how much? 1600. So your L2 is 1600. Your L2 is 1600. Clear? Now let's move down to the another L3 and L4, L5. Let us calculate. Okay. Now L3. L3 is standard composition multiplied by hours worked multiplied by standard rate. So standard composition is how much? That is 30 men, how many women? 15 women and 10 boys multiplied by 40, and the standard rate is 0.8, 0.6, 0.4. If you calculate it, how much it comes to? 960, 360 and 160. It is 1480. This is your L3, right? Let's move down to L4. Now L4 is standard composition multiplied by hours utilized, not hours worked, hours utilized multiplied by standard rate. So this is 30 men, 15 women, 10 boys, and there are 4 hours for the idle time. So hours utilized was 36 multiplied by 0.80, 0.60 and 0.40. So which is equal to 864. How much? 324 and 144. So this comes to how much? 1332. 1332. So this is your L4. Clear? This is your L4. Now let's move down to L5. L5. Okay, L5. What is the formula for L5? Standard labor cost of standard output divided by standard output multiplied by actual output, right? So what is standard labor cost of standard output? That is L3. 1480. What was the standard output the company wanted to achieve? 2000. How much actually they produced? How much? 1600. If you calculate it, it is 1 rupees 1184. This is your L5. This is your L5, right? Now let's move down to the calculation of the variances. Okay. So the first one was labor rate variance, labor mix variance, labor idle time variance, labor yield variance, labor cost variance, labor efficiency variance, right? L1 minus L2, L2 minus L3, L3 minus L4, L4 minus L5, L1 minus L5, L2 minus L5, right? So which is equal to, if you calculate it, that is 1440 minus 1600, 1600 minus 1480, 1480 minus 1332, 1332 minus 1184. Yes. Okay. 1440 minus 1184 and 1600 minus 1184. So let us calculate it. This is 160 favorable. This is 120 adverse. This is how much? 148 adverse. 148 adverse. 256 adverse and 416 adverse, right? This is what we have calculated, right? If you let us put this value in this flow diagram. Let us put these values in the flow diagram. How much is the labor mix variance? Let me just remove these values. Just give me a minute. Let me just remove these values. Okay. Labor mix variance. How much is labor mix variance? 120. 120. 120. Okay. One two zero adverse. Okay. Idle time variance is how much? 148 adverse. Yield variance is 148 adverse. So if you add all these, how much it comes to? Is it 416 adverse? Okay. Now what is the labor rate variance? 160 favorable. So if we calculate it, it has to be 256 adverse. So that is how we have to do it. So whatever values you have calculated, put it in the flow diagram, and this flow diagram, if it matches, then whatever values you have calculated, they are all correct. So this finishes your labor variance. This finishes your labor variance, right? Maybe later on I'll give you a composite problem of material and labor both, where you will be able to calculate labor and material variances, right? अभी हमने अलग अलग किया है तो थोड़ा आसान पड़ता है, लेकिन जब material और labor होता है, combined problem होगा तो थोड़ा you have to apply, right? Clear? Now let us move further. Let us move further to the next category of variance now. Now this is variable overhead variance. Like all of you know what is variable cost. Variable cost, there are two things: variable cost per unit and variable cost in total amount. Variable cost per unit, it remains same at all levels of output. I have told you when we were doing marginal costing, right? VC per unit कभी बदलता नहीं है. VC per unit जो है हमेशा सेम रहता है. टोटल वेरिएबल कॉस्ट जो है वो बदलता है. इट चेंजेस विद द चेंज इन द आउटपुट लेवल. सो टोटल वेरिएबल कॉस्ट चेंजेस इन विद द लेवल ऑफ आउटपुट. वेरिएबल कॉस्ट पर यूनिट इट रिमेन्स सेम. इज इट ओके? नाउ व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट वेरिएबल ओवरहेड वेरिएंस, so we are talking about overheads which are variable in nature, means which changes with the change in the output level. Is it okay? So when we calculate variable overhead variance, there are three types of overhead variance, variable overhead variance, which we are going to talk. The first category, the main variance was variable overhead variance. It has two categories. It has two types. It has two, you can say, one is a variable overhead expenditure variance and another one is a variable overhead efficiency variance. Clear? So these are the two which we are going to calculate. Overhead variance, variable overhead variance, it has two, that is expenditure variance, and the second one is an efficiency variance. Is it okay? Now let us see how do we calculate these three variances. Now okay, just put it in this. Now variable overhead variance, we call it VO1. Normally in a problem you will be given this, you do not have to calculate it. Variable overhead VO1 is actual variable overheads which a company has incurred. These are the actual overhead which company has incurred. Normally this figure is given to you in the problem. You do not have to calculate it. 1. VO2 is the actual hours worked at standard variable overhead rate. Actual hours worked at standard variable overhead rate. Like I said, variable overhead rate does not change with the change in the output level. It remains same. So the formula to calculate is standard variable overhead rate per hour multiplied by actual hours worked. Standard variable overhead rate per hour multiplied by actual hours worked. Is it okay? Clear? Now question here arises, how will you calculate standard variable overhead rate per hour? Now the formula to calculate is standard variable overhead divided by standard variable overhead standard variable hours worked for a period multiplied by actual hours worked. Let me just write it down here for you. Okay, first note this. VO1 is actual overhead incurred, VO2 is actual hours worked at standard variable overhead rate, and VO3 is standard variable overhead for the production. So here what we are talking about, VO2 और VO3 में फ़र्क क्या है? वहाँ पे हम standard variable overhead rate निकाल रहे हैं per hour. यहाँ हम लेंगे standard variable overhead per unit. What are we finding? वहाँ पे hours ले रहे हैं और यहाँ पे क्या ले रहे हैं हम? Unit ले रहे हैं, per unit ले रहे हैं, multiplied by actual production. That's the difference. And how you will calculate it? Variable overhead expenditure variance is VO1 minus VO2. Variable overhead efficiency variance is VO2 minus VO3, and variable overhead variance is L1 VO1 minus VO3. Is it okay? Clear? Same. खर्चे वाला है, पॉजिटिव है तो एडवर्स है, नेगेटिव है तो फेवरेबल है. Clear? Let us find it out how we are going to solve it. So यहाँ पे I am going to teach you two things. One, how to calculate standard variable overhead rate per hour, and another is standard variable overhead per unit. Let us see how we are going to calculate it. Okay. Now standard variable, you can write down the formula for this. Standard variable overhead rate per hour is equal to standard variable overhead divided by standard variable hours, right, for the period multiplied by actual hours worked. This is the formula to calculate standard variable overhead rate per hour, right? Now let us calculate standard variable overhead rate per unit. Formula is same. The only difference is that instead of hours, now we will take production. What we will take? Production. Is it okay? So the formula to calculate this is standard variable overhead divided by standard production multiplied by actual production. Clear? Efficiency, when we calculate efficiency, we always calculate efficiency in terms of the output achieved, right? Okay, so these are the two formulas which you have to remember to calculate VO2 and VO3. Yes. Standard variable overhead divided by standard variable hours for the period. उस particular period के जो standard variable hours हैं आपको, right, multiplied by actual hours worked. And for standard variable overhead rate per unit is equal to standard variable overhead divided by standard production multiplied by actual production. Remember these two formula, they have similarity. Numerators दोनों में same है. Standard variable overhead, denominator अगर hours में निकाल रहे हैं तो हम standard variable hours ले रहे हैं, और production में और उसमें निकाल रहे हैं, अगर unit में निकाल रहे हैं तो standard production ले रहे हैं. Multiply किससे करते हैं hours में? Actual hours से. और unit में किससे multiply करेंगे? Actual production से. That's the only thing. Clear? Understood? This is how we have to calculate variable overhead variance. Right? So this is the problem. Yes. So this is the problem. You have to solve this problem. Take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to solve this variable overhead variance. This is the problem to calculate variable overhead variance. What is VO1? Right. So which is the figure which is given here? Why? 14,000. Right. That is actual variable overhead. It is already given to you. VO1 is already given to you. That is actual variable overhead. How much is VO2? Calculate fast. How much is VO2? You have to calculate VO2, variable overhead. VO2. What is VO2? Actual hours work दे तो रखे 9,000. आप क्या निकालते हो? Actual hours worked at standard variable overhead rate. Are you able to find standard variable overhead rate? उसका फॉर्मूला मैंने आपको क्या बताया है? स्टैंडर्ड वेरिएबल ओवरहेड divided by standard variable hours for the period multiplied by actual hours worked. अच्छा, एक यूनिट को बनाने में कितना टाइम लगना चाहिए? एक यूनिट को बनाने में स्टैंडर्ड आवर्स कितना है? 20 आवर्स. और स्टैंडर्ड प्रोडक्शन कितना है? 600. स्टैंडर्ड प्रोडक्शन है 600 और एक यूनिट को बनाने में 20 घंटे लगते हैं. तो स्टैंडर्ड वेरिएबल आवर्स कितने हो गए? 12,000. Why you want to do it this way na? Do it simple way na? When it is there. No, why you should always take the different route, right? Don't convert your actual hours into budgeted hours na. Always calculate. So standard variable overhead कितना दे रखा है आपको? Standard variable overhead दे रखा है 15,000 divided by 600 into 12, that is standard variable hours for that particular period, multiplied by actual hours worked. How much it is? 9,000. So 15,000 divided by 12,000 multiplied by 9,000 for VO2 जितना भी है. Should I do it for you? Okay. Okay, VO1, let's find out. VO1 is already given to you in the problem, right? VO1 is given to you, that is how much? Rupees, how much? 14,000. It is already given to you in the problem. क्या है ये हमारा? This is what we call actual variable overheads incurred. VO1 is what? Actual variable overheads incurred. This is already given to you in the to us in the problem. Now VO2 we have to calculate. Now VO2 is actual hours worked, actual hours worked, right, at standard variable overhead rate, right? And we have to calculate, the formula for this is uh, standard variable overhead divided by standard variable hours, HOURS, hours multiplied by actual hours worked. Clear? Now standard variable overhead is given to us in the problem. How much it is? 15,000. Now we have to calculate standard variable hours. To manufacture one unit, 20 hours are used. In 20 hours we are able to make one unit. So how many units we will be able to make? How many hours we require to make 600 units? 12,000. So this is 600 units multiplied by 20 hours per unit multiplied by 9,000. So if you calculate it, how much it comes to? हाँ फाइन, अगर आपने वैल्यू निकाला है ठीक है. So I do not know. 11 to 50? Great. So this is 11 to 50. Clear? Right? Now let us calculate VO3. Let us calculate VO3 now. Now VO3 is, what is VO3? That is standard variable overhead, for production, right? Formula to calculate is, that is standard variable overhead per unit multiplied by actual production, right? Actual production. Now how we will calculate this standard variable overhead per unit? So the formula for this is standard variable overhead divided by standard production multiplied by actual production. Now standard variable overhead is how much? 15,000 divided by standard production is how much? 600 units, right? And how much is the actual production? 500 units. Why? It has to be in units, na? Right? How much it comes to? 12,500. Right. So we have calculated VO1, VO2, VO3. Is it okay? Now let us calculate the variances. So the first variance is variable variable overhead expenditure variance, that is VO1 minus VO2. Another one is variable overhead efficiency variance, which is equal to VO2 minus VO3, and the last one is a variable overhead variance, which is equal to VO1 minus VO3. So let us calculate the VO1 was how much? 14,000. So 14,000 minus 12,000, how much? 11,000? 11,250, right? 11,250 minus 12,500 and 14,000 minus 12,500. So this is what? 1,750. Okay, 2,750 adverse, right? This is 1,250 favorable, and this is 1,500 adverse. Is it okay? Put it in the graph, put it in the flow diagram. It should satisfy. So if you see this, variable overhead expenditure was how much? Variable overhead expenditure was 2,750 adverse. So this was 2,750 adverse. Variable overhead efficiency variance was,
1250 favorable.
this is 1,250 favorable, so it has to be 1,500 adverse. So this, whatever you have calculated, it should satisfy this flow diagram. So it's very small, very simple. Just you have to calculate 3. उसमें से normally आपको एक तो दिया ही जाता है. It is already given. That is VO1 will always be given to you. Clear? Right? So this finishes your variable overhead variance. इससे ज़्यादा नहीं है कुछ भी variable overhead variance के अंदर. So now we move down to the last one, that is fixed overhead variance. We still have another 15-20 minutes, so we'll be able to finish this fixed overhead variance today, right? So fixed overhead variance is, it has six fixed overhead variance you have to calculate here. So fixed overhead variance. Now remember, fixed overhead variance in total amount does not change. Variable overhead per unit does not change. Fixed overhead in total amount does not change. Fixed overhead per unit changes with the change in the output level. Fixed overhead per unit, it changes with the change in the output level, whereas fixed overhead in total amount will not change, it will remain same, right? So let us now find it out. These six variances. Fixed overhead variance, it has two categories: expenditure variance and volume variance. Volume, it has 3 subcategories: idle time variance is there, capacity variance is there, and efficiency variance is there. So this you have to remember. Overhead variance, fixed overhead variance, it has 2 subcategories. One is the expenditure variance and another is the volume variance. And volume variance, it has three subcategories: idle time variance, capacity variance, and the efficiency variance. You can make this flow diagram for fixed overhead variance. For fixed overhead variance. Fixed overhead variance. This is okay? Clear? These are the 6 variances you have to calculate under fixed overhead variance. Fine. So let us understand how we are going to calculate it. So these are the 5 FOs which we have to calculate. So these are the 5 FOs which you have to calculate. Okay, let me squeeze it more. Just give me a minute. Okay. Oh, it is still coming there. All right, fine. Now, here we have to calculate 5 FOs. Normally, FO or FO1 and FO2, they are already given to you in the problem. FO1 और FO2 आपको एक क्वेश्चन के अंदर ऑलरेडी दिया गया होगा, आपको कैलकुलेट करने की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. सो व्हाट इज FO1? एक्चुअल फिक्स्ड ओवरहेड इनकर्ड. Fixed overhead incurred in actuals, right? That is FO1. What is FO2? Budgeted fixed overhead for the period or standard fixed overhead allowance, right? So what it says is that it represents the amount of fixed overhead which should be spent according to the budget or standard. जो हमने budget बनाया है और जो standard बनाया है हमने उसको consider करते हुए हमें अपने fixed overhead spend करने हैं. Clear? Now the amount of standard allowance of fixed overhead ये change नहीं होता है with the level of output. Level of output में बदलते रहेंगे लेकिन fixed overhead कभी भी बदलेगा नहीं, वो हमेशा क्या रहता है, सेम रहता है. Is it okay? So FO1 and FO2 normally जो है ये आपको क्वेश्चन के अंदर दिया गया होगा. Now let us calculate FO3. FO3 क्या है? Fixed overhead for the days, या तो days में होगा या hours में होगा, दोनों में से एक में होगा. Fixed overhead for the days or hours which is available at the fixed overhead rate during that particular period of time, right? So how you will calculate it? Fixed or standard fixed overheads for the period divided by standard days multiplied by actual days available. Yes. Is it okay? क्योंकि days में निकालेंगे तो डिनोमिनेटर क्या लेंगे, डेज ही लेंगे, और आवर्स के निकालेंगे तो आवर्स लेंगे. इज इट ओके? बट रिमेंबर द न्यूमरेटर विल ऑलवेज रिमेन द सेम. दैट इज व्हाट? बजटेड फिक्स्ड और स्टैंडर्ड फिक्स्ड ओवरहेड फॉर दैट पर्टिकुलर पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. इज इट ओके? दैट इज FO3. दैट इज FO3. FO4 क्या है? फिक्स्ड ओवरहेड फॉर एक्चुअल आवर्स वर्कड एट स्टैंडर्ड रेट. फिक्स्ड ओवरहेड fixed overhead for actual hours worked at standard rate. So point है यहाँ पे हम किससे मल्टीप्लाई करेंगे? स्टैंडर्ड रेट से मल्टीप्लाई करेंगे. लेकिन कैसे करेंगे? बजटेड फिक्स्ड ओवरहेड फॉर द पीरियड डिवाइडेड बाय बजटेड आवर्स मल्टीप्लाइड बाय एक्चुअल आवर्स. दैट्स इट. डिनोमिनेटर जो न्यूमरेटर है ना दोनों में वो हमेशा क्या है? सेम है. बजटेड फिक्स्ड ओवरहेड डिवाइडेड बाय बजटेड आवर्स इनटू एक्चुअल आवर्स. वहां पे FO3 के अंदर क्या है? budgeted fixed overhead divided by budgeted hours multiplied by actual hours. Is it okay? So FO1, FO2, FO3 and FO4 is clear. अब budgeted hours कैसे निकालोगे बताओ? Budgeted hours निकालने तो क्या होगा कि हमारे पास इतने budgeted days हैं और हर दिन में हम कितने घंटे काम करते हैं, मैन आवर्स पर डे कितना है, तो हमारा budgeted hours निकल जाएगा. सिमिलरली अगर मुझको एक्चुअल आवर्स निकालने तो कैसे निकालूंगा? एक्चुअल नंबर ऑफ डेज मल्टीप्लाइड बाय एक्चुअल मैन आवर्स वर्क पर डे. इज इट ओके? सो वी हैव कैलकुलेटेड budgeted hours and actual hours. Last FO5. FO5 आउटपुट अचीव्ड का होता है हमेशा. तो क्या है ये हमारा स्टैंडर्ड फिक्स्ड ओवरहेड फॉर द प्रोडक्शन और आउटपुट अचीव. सिंपल. न्यूमरेटर क्या है? सब में सेम है. बजटेड फिक्स्ड ओवरहेड फॉर द पीरियड डिवाइडेड बाय budgeted production multiplied by actual production. Is it okay? Is it clear? The formula to remember is same. It is not different. Clear? Right? अब budgeted production कैसे निकालोगे? हमारे budgeted days कितने हैं? Multiplied by कितने, एक दिन में कितने घंटे काम किया, multiplied by और एक घंटे में कितना हमने produce किया. Have you understood? That is how you have calculated budgeted production. Similarly, actual production कैसे निकालोगे? Actual days हमने कितना काम किया, एक दिन में हमने कितने घंटे काम किया और एक घंटे में हमने कितना actual में produce किया. That is how you have calculated your budgeted production and the actual production. Is it okay? Is it clear? Understood? So these are the 5 FOs which you have to calculate: FO1, FO2, FO3, FO4 and FO5. Normally FO1, FO2 आपको दे रखा होता है एग्जाम में. FO3 और FO4, FO5 you have to calculate. Clear? Understood? Right? So you can note it down. Yeah. Done? Can we move forward? Very easy to remember all these formula. They're not difficult. It's only that one or two problems you will be able to solve. You will be able to remember all these formulas. Okay, let's move further. Now this is how you calculate all these fixed overhead variances. The first variance which you calculate is fixed overhead expenditure variance. The first variance is the expenditure variance, that is FO1 minus FO2. Then you calculate calendar variance, which is FO2 minus FO3. Then you calculate capacity variance, which is FO3 minus FO4. Then you calculate efficiency variance, FO4 minus FO5. Then fixed overhead variance, FO1 minus FO5. And the last one is an volume variance, which is known as FO2 minus FO5. Is it okay? Always remember, मैंने वहाँ पे idle time variance लिखा था. Idle time variance और calendar variance is same. Yes. Idle time variance and the calendar variance is same. Clear? So these are the variances, 6 variances, fixed overhead variances, which you have to calculate. This is the order. The order will not change. Is it okay? So first we have to calculate expenditure variance, then calendar variance, Then we have to calculate capacity variance, efficiency variance, fixed overhead variance, and the last one is a volume variance. Clear? Right. And this is the last problem of the class, today's class. Okay. Should I move? So this is the last problem. Pehle wala. People, you can take the pick of it and you can start doing it, please. Just give me, yeah, she's writing. Done? So this is the problem. You have to solve this problem, take 10 minutes and do it fast. You are given the budgeted information, you are given the actual information, right? So what is FO1? FO1 is what? Actual fixed overhead incurred. What is the actual fixed overhead incurred? Yes, this is given to you in the problem. FO1 is given to you, that is 1,68,000. And how much is the fixed FO2? 1,60,000. So FO1 and FO2 is already given to you in the problem. FO1 is 1,68,000. FO2 is 1,60,000. Right? Now you have to calculate FO3. FO3 is fixed overhead for the days oblique hours available at standard rate during that particular period of time.
1,76,000.
Okay. FO3 is 1,76,000, she said. So someone has to calculate. How you will calculate? Budgeted fixed overhead. How much is the budgeted fixed overhead? 1,60,000 divided by budgeted days. How much is the budgeted days? 20 multiplied by actual days. That is how much? 22 days. So FO3 is budgeted fixed overhead divided by budgeted days multiplied by actual days. Clear? So you will get FO3.
Man hours per day.
Yeah.
8,000.
Hmm.
So there are 24 hours in. Acha, 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 okay. Okay, this is like all the people combined are working.
Yes, yes, yes. It's not a one person man hour. Should I calculate it? One lakh 84,800. FO4. Okay. Now FO1 is already given to us in the problem, which is equal to 1,68,000. It is already given to us in the problem. FO2 is also given to us in the problem, that is 1,60,000. It is already given to us in the problem, right? FO3, let us calculate it. FO3 is, if we see how do we calculate it, that is the budgeted fixed overhead for the period divided by budgeted days multiplied by actual days, right? So budgeted fixed overhead is how much? 1,60,000. Budgeted days is how much? 20 days. No, 20 days multiplied by 22 days. So if we calculate it, rupees 1,76,000. That is FO3. Now let us calculate FO4. FO4, what we have to calculate here is budget. Let's just write down the formula first. That is budgeted, fixed overhead for the period divided by budgeted hours multiplied by actual hours. Clear? Now budgeted hours, let us calculate budgeted hours first. Of budgeted hours, let me just write it here. 1,60,000. Budgeted hours कैसे निकालोगे? Budgeted days कितने हैं? 20 days हैं. और एक दिन में हम कितने घंटे काम करते हैं? 8,000, right? 8,000 hours, right? Multiplied by 22 days into 8,400 hours. If you calculate it, how much it comes to? 1,84,800. This is your FO4. This is your FO4. Is it okay? Budgeted days हैं 20 days और एक दिन में 800 घंटे काम करते हैं employees. So total number of hours are 1,60,000. Right? Similarly, actual days कितने काम करें? 20 days और एक दिन में 8,400 hours काम कराए. तो 22 employees ने कितने काम किए? 22 labor ने कितना काम किया? Is it okay? So we have calculated FO4 also. Let us calculate FO5 now. FO5 formula is budgeted fixed overhead divided by budgeted production multiplied by actual production, right? So budgeted fixed overhead कितना है हमारा? 1,60,000. Let us calculate budgeted production. Budgeted production कितना है? 20 days हमने काम किया, right? कितने घंटे काम किया? 8,000 घंटे काम किया और एक घंटे में कितनी यूनिट बनाई? एक यूनिट बनाई. 1 unit per unit. 1 unit per hour, sorry. 1 unit per hour. हमने एक यूनिट बनाई है ना, मतलब 20 दिन 8,000 घंटे और एक घंटे में कितनी यूनिट बनाई. सिमिलरली एक्चुअल प्रोडक्शन कैसे निकालेंगे? 22 डेज हैं और कितना घंटे काम किया पूरा? 8,400 आवर्स और एक घंटे में कितनी यूनिट बनाई है हमने? 0.90. इफ यू सॉल्व इट, हाउ मच इट कम्स टू? 166,320. This is your FO5. This is your FO5. Is it okay? This is your FO5. right? Now let us calculate these variances now. Let us calculate here itself. FO1 कितना है हमारा? 1,68,000 minus 1,60,000, right? It is how much? 8,000 adverse. Clear? Right? Then we have 1,60,000 minus FO3 कितना था हमारा? 1,76,000, which is equal to 16,000 favorable. Then 1,76,000 minus 1,84,800. How much it comes to? 8,800 favorable. Favorable. 1,84,800 minus 1,66,320. Calculate it, how much it comes to? 184? 18,480. That is adverse. And then 1,68,000 minus 166,320. How much it comes to? 1,680 adverse. And the last 1,60,000 minus 1,66,320, which is 6,320 adverse. Favorable, right. Now put all these figures in the graph, you will get it. Clear? Put all these figures in the flow diagram. It has to match. It has to match. Please practice more problems on standard costing. Start with the basic problems so that you are able to understand. Now if we put the values, how much is the calendar variance? How much is the calendar variance? Calendar variance is 16,000 favorable. 16,000 favorable. Right? How much is the capacity variance? 1,800. 8,800 favorable. And efficiency variance? 1,8. So how much is the volume? If you add it, 28,800, no, 24,800 and 18,180. It has to be 620 and 13. 5680. This has to be 5680 adverse. No, favorable. यही आ रहा है? हाँ, FO2 माइनस FO5 है. FO2 तो 16,000, 1,60,000. 6320 फेवरेबल ही तो लिखा है. ये तो लिखा है 6320 फेवरेबल. वॉल्यूम, शी टोल्ड मी दैट दिस इज द वॉल्यूम. लेकिन ये गलत क्यों आ रहा है? Efficiency is how much? Someone told me 18,480 है. All right. So this is 18,480. Okay. This is 18,480. Then it is how much? How much it is? If this is 480, then it has to be 6320, right? So this is 6320 favorable. Oh, expenditure variance is how much? Expenditure variance is 8,000 adverse. So this is 8,000 adverse. And this will be how much? 1680 adverse. It has to be. So overhead variance, it has to be 1680 adverse. This is a 1680 adverse. So this is what you call variances, and please practice it. So we have completed with the standard costing. So we are done with marginal, we are done with budgetary, we are done with standard costing. Is it okay? Right? So in the next class, we'll start with the cost sheet. We will learn how to make a cost sheet. You definitely get a problem on cost sheet, right? And you have to learn to calculate cost per unit there. Clear? Thank you so much.